In this movie, I'll introduce you to the image size command, which allows you to change the physical size and/or resolution of an entire image here inside Photoshop. To get to the command, go up to the image menu and choose image size, or you have a keyboard shortcut of Control-Alt-I or Command-Option-I on the Mac. Notice that we have a preview inside the dialog box, which shows us the results of any modifications we're about to make. To pan the preview to a different location, just go ahead and drag inside of it like so. Or I can move the image size dialog box over a little bit, and I can click inside the image, for example, right here on John de Donteville's nose, in order to center him inside the dialog box. All right, now notice that we have a few options that are available to us. First of all, we're seeing the physical dimensions of the image, which are, as we saw in the previous movie, 972 pixels wide by 670 pixels tall. You can switch from pixels to some other unit of measurement, such as inches or millimeters, but generally speaking, pixels are the best way to work because they show you what's really going on. Up here at the top, this value right there in megabytes, that is the size of the image as uncompressed in RAM, that is your computer's memory. So whenever you open an image inside Photoshop, the program has to decompress it pixel by pixel. And to get a sense for where this value comes from, I'm going to cancel out of the dialog box for a moment. And I'm going to show you some technical information, just in case you're interested. First of all, we've got an image that measures 972 by 670 pixels for a total of more than 650,000 pixels. In order to figure out how big that image is in memory, you have to take into account that each RGB pixel requires 3 bytes of information. 1 byte for the red channel, 1 byte for the green channel, and 1 byte for the blue channel. So in other words, in our case, because we have 651 plus pixels, we have to multiply that times 3 in order to figure out that it's going to take 1,950,720 bytes. Now, a byte is a very small unit of memory. To figure out megabytes, you have to figure that a single K, that is a kilobyte, is 1,024 bytes, and a single meg is 1,024 K. So what we have to do is take this 1.9 million bytes figure right there, divide it by 1,024, and we get 1,908 K. And then we take that value and divide it by 1,024, and we get 1.86 megabytes. Now, some of you might be figuring, well, thanks a lot, Poindexter, for this unnecessary information. But I find that a lot of folks really like to know exactly what's going on. So what I'm going to do is go back to the image menu and once again choose image size. And you'll see here inside the dialog box that sure enough, the size of the image in memory is exactly 1.86 megs, as we calculated down here in the bottom right corner of the image. Now notice that we have these width and height values that we can modify to our heart's content, and that they're linked together to make sure that any scaling that you apply to the image is proportional. If you want to scale the width and height values independently, you can just go ahead and turn off this link icon right there, and now you can stretch the image as you like. However, I want to make sure my modifications are proportional, so I'll go ahead and turn the link icon back on. Also notice this resample option right here, and that it is turned on by default. Resampling means changing the number of pixels inside the image, and anytime you resample, you have to rewrite every single pixel inside the image. And then also note that we have this resolution option right there, which shows us that we have 100 pixels per inch. That only matters when printing the image or when placing the image inside of a vector-based program such as Adobe Illustrator or InDesign. Now let's say what I want to do is increase the number of pixels in this image. In fact, I want to take the number of pixels up to 300 pixels per inch, which is an industry standard for fine resolution images. In that case, I'm going to increase the number of pixels, which means that I'm going to increase the image size. And anytime you're doing that, you're going to want to expand the size of the image size dialog box. And I'm going to make it so it takes up the entire screen by dragging the dialog into the upper left corner of the screen and then dragging its bottom right corner all the way down to the bottom right corner of the screen. And we can now see that we have some very big imagery going on. Now, notice when I click and hold on the image, I'm seeing big pixels. And as soon as I release, I'm seeing the smoother version of the image. That smoothness is determined by this option right here, which by default is set to automatic. This is known as the interpolation setting, and it determines how Photoshop goes ahead and averages the existing pixels in the image to create new ones. Now, anytime you're increasing the number of pixels in the image, you are said to be upsampling it. If you're decreasing the number of pixels, it's called downsampling. But let's say you don't want to change the number of pixels at all. You just want to change the resolution value so you can determine how big the image prints. In that case, you want to turn off the resample image checkbox. And now notice the image returns to its normal size, but the width and height values change. So because we're increasing the resolution value, we're packing more pixels into a linear inch, which thereby decreases the width and height values. So we're smushing the image into a smaller space. Alternatively, you could decrease the resolution value. For example, I'll take it down to 72 pixels per inch, at which point you're going to increase the physical size of the image when it prints, which, as you can see here, is going to be 13.5 inches wide, or a little more than 9 inches tall. You can also change these values independently. For example, I could say that I want the height to be 12 inches. That's going to send the width value up to about 17.5 inches. And notice, because resample is turned off, all three of these values are linked together, and so the resolution is declining precipitously. Finally, you can go ahead and fit to a specific size. So you can choose one of these options right here, all of which are going to resample, that is to say, change the number of pixels inside the image. Now, I've been throwing a lot of terminology at you, so I'll end things by recapping the terms. I'll go ahead and click the cancel button, and then I'll switch over to this image right here. And so here are the image scaling terms you'll want to know. First of all, resample, which means to change the number of pixels in a digital image. We have downsample, which means to reduce the number of pixels. We have upsample, which means to increase the number of pixels. And finally, we have interpolation. So the idea is that when you resample, Photoshop has to rewrite every single pixel in the image. Interpolation is the method by which Photoshop averages the old pixels to create new ones. And lest you worry, we're going to be revisiting these terms over and over throughout this course. And that's my introduction to the image size command, which is one of the most important features in all of Photoshop.